There's a difference between uncovering a story and awakening it. The legendary Billy B examines what happens when an unscrupulous reporter stumbles into a living myth and realizes too late that some legends survive by punishing those who seek them out. Greetings, ghouls, and welcome to a dive into horror television. Tonight we explore the legendary Billy B from The Hitchhiker. We open to Jane L. and Hodie taking photographs outside of an actor's window. They're tabloid newspaper reporters, and they nailed a big story here. The lady he's with looks a lot like his own sister. Can you say scandal? At their office space, Hodie shows Jane L. a cover to a tabloid, and we learn that one of their expose stories caused a wife to kill herself. Jane L. is ruthless. She only cares that someone stole her story. She melts down over it. Hodie cares that his work caused a suicide. He feels remorse, at least one of them has a soul. Jane L. picks up photographs and slams them on the floor before stomping on them. The pictures are of Billy B., a famous acid rock star from the 60s. Jane L. doesn't care about the pictures. Billy B. has been dead for 20 years, but Hodie swears he took these photos just last week. We learn that Billy B. was shot dead on stage. Everyone saw him die. Hodie insists he's not dead, and he found his hideout. So they go off to see if they can get more pictures. They climb over a wall, then they go and they find a hideout spot. A man walks outside, hops in a truck, and leaves. The reporters run toward the door and find a way into the house. They go through the cellar. Upstairs, they hear a guitar that sounds just like Billy B. They go up another flight of stairs, and the music stops. They look around a stinky, messed up room. Hodie recognizes that the room is a replica of the last hotel room Billy B. ever stayed in, which was trashed. The music starts up again and they go up another flight of stairs. They walk right into Billy B. At the same time, the truck from before comes back. He lugs a big box inside. Upstairs, they're having an interview. Billy B. gives an answer he already famously gave to an interviewer back in the 60s. Jane L. wants new responses. She asks him if he's a prisoner. He answers with another repeated line. Hodie's a big fan of his, so he recognizes his words. Hodie even takes the guitar and shows him a riff he wants him to play. That's when Billy B. takes out a gun and tells them nobody ever goes. The man outside hears Billy B. on the microphone, so he gets a gun and rushes in. Hodie jumps through a window, which is crazy. Billy follows him outside, and the big man from before breaks his neck. Jane L. is still inside, and she hears more music coming from another room inside the house. She takes pictures of the older Billy B. and asks him questions for an interview. He doesn't speak. She thinks maybe he needs a little more juice from all the IVs he has. He starts shaking violently. He's not looking good at all. The big guy grabs her. We learn that the younger guy is Billy's son. His real dad is the real Billy B. Rock and roll took Billy B's soul, so his son and the big guy have been taking care of his body, waiting for his soul to come back. They know one day it'll be back, or at least they hope so. So he jabs Jane L. with a needle, which makes her basically a vegetable. She sits next to Billy B in a catatonic state, hooked up to IVs. The episode presents fame not as immortality, but as a prolonged kind of death. Billy B may be remembered as a legendary rock icon, but the person he once was is long gone. What remains is a body sustained by machines and caretakers who are waiting for something that will never return. The story suggests that celebrity freezes a person in time, turning them into an image that outlives their humanity. Fame preserves performance, not personhood. Once Billy B became famous, his image took on a life of its own, one that continues to circulate, generate value, and invite consumption long after his humanity has collapsed. The episode suggests that image is not neutral, it is extractive. It feeds on the subject it depicts, stripping away complexity, privacy, and agency in exchange for public recognition. Jane L. operates entirely within this logic. To her, photographs are not evidence of reality but raw material. She is unconcerned with whether Billy B is alive, dead, or suffering. What matters is that his image still produces scandal, attention, and profit. Even the suicide caused by one of her exposés did not register as a moral failure, only as a competitive inconvenience because someone else broke the story first. Human consequence disappears once a life has been converted into content. By the end, Jane L. herself becomes an image without agency, silent, immobilized, preserved. This is not framed as justice so much as irony. She is subjected to the same reduction she imposed on others. Her transformation exposes the episode's central claim. When image is valued above humanity, no one is safe from becoming an object. The exploitation of image does not stop at celebrities, it eventually consumes those who profit from it as well. Hody represents the conflicted fan. He is genuinely moved by Billy B's work and recognizes his voice, his riffs, his language. Unlike Jane L., Hody feels remorse when his work causes harm, and he hesitates when things feel wrong. But devotion still clouds his judgment. He pushes for access, wants confirmation that his idol is real, and participates in trespassing and exploitation despite his better instincts. The episode suggests that fandom does not excuse ethical failure. Good intentions do not cancel out harm. The caretakers, Billy's son and the large man, embody devotion taken to its most extreme and terrifying conclusion. Their loyalty is absolute, but it is no longer directed at Billy as a person. Instead, they are devoted to the idea of Billy B, the myth of rock and roll transcendence. They keep his body alive as infrastructure, not as a life. In their minds, the ends justify the means because preserving the legend matters more than the suffering required to maintain it. This is where ethical responsibility collapses. Devotion becomes a rationale for violence, confinement, and erasure. Billy is denied dignity in the present because of what he once represented. The episode critiques a familiar cultural impulse. The belief that great art entitles audiences and even loved ones to unlimited access, explanation, and control. When fans feel ownership over an artist, boundaries become negotiable. The idea that rock and roll took Billy B's soul literalizes the cost of cultural myth-making. The music industry is framed as something vampiric, extracting vitality, meaning, and identity until nothing remains but a shell. Billy's son and caretaker believe the soul might return, but this hope only sustains further suffering. The episode implies that the promise of legacy often masks a refusal to let go, even when letting go would be merciful. The legendary Billy B frames media not as a neutral observer, but as a force capable of inflicting real harm without ever drawing blood. Violence in this episode is not loud or spectacular. It's slow, procedural, and justified as just doing the job. Cameras, headlines, and interviews become instruments that strip people of agency while leaving no visible wound. The camera itself functions like a weapon. Jane and Hody spy through windows, trespass into private spaces, and document lives without consent. Nothing physical is taken in those moments, yet something essential is stolen. Privacy, safety, and the right to exist without surveillance. The episode suggests that being watched, recorded, and exposed can be as violating as physical assault, especially when the subject has no power to refuse. Importantly, the episode does not present media harm as accidental. It shows how systems reward cruelty. Jane's career thrives on exposure, escalation, and shock. Each story must be more invasive than the last to remain profitable. Ethical hesitation, like Hody's, is treated as weakness because it slows production. In this environment, restraint becomes unprofessional and harm becomes routine. Media's violence without blood is ultimately about normalization. No one screams when harm occurs. There is no crime scene tape, no sirens. The damage unfolds quietly. In ruined lives, psychological collapse, and irreversible loss of dignity. By the time consequences appear, the story has already moved on. The episode's bleak conclusion suggests that media violence is hardest to confront precisely because it feels abstract. Words, images, and exposure seem harmless compared to physical force, yet the show insists that erasure, exploitation, and public consumption can destroy a person just as thoroughly as any weapon, only more cleanly and with far less accountability. The episode ultimately rejects the fantasy of eternal fame. Immortality, as the episode portrays it, is not freedom. It is stagnation, decay, and endless exploitation. To be remembered forever is to be denied rest, privacy, and change. The episode leaves us with a bleak but pointed message. When culture refuses to let its idols die, it keeps them alive in the most cruel way possible. Jane L. was played by Kirstie Alley, who is known for Drop Dead Gorgeous, It Takes Two, and Look Who's Talking. Hody was played by Andy Summers, who was in a band called The Police, and he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2003. Brad Dourif, who played the son, was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Child's Play. He's the voice of Chucky. The director of this one was Chris Thompson, and he did 2 other episodes of The Hitchhiker. The writers were L.M. Kit Carson, Marjorie David, and Gail Glaze. LM is known for writing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. Marjorie and Gail are series regulars on The Hitchhiker. Overall, I'll rate this one a 6 out of 10. It didn't do it for me despite the cool cast and decent production. The story was poor, and if the writing sucks, there's nothing the production could have really done to make up for it. What did you think of this one? Let me know down below, and remember to be well and stay spooky.